Hi, I'm Matt.
And I'm Dee Dee. We are the hilarious outcome of opposing brains sharing a mutual desire to share knowledge and positive thinking about hemp and cannabis.
We are here to tear down the walls built by Big Pharma and other big companies that seek to keep the human race in fear and divided.
We are here to shatter the myths about hemp and cannabis and change the stigma of this amazing plant. Welcome to Hemp and Happiness with the Hemp Queen
And Emperor.
Podcast. Join us as we venture into this misunderstood and the unknown. Hey, happy hempsters. We are back, and obviously we're in a new location. Thanks to Matt for getting all this set up. This is kind of at the basement of his home. So you may see some of his kitties walking around. He's got two little cuties. So good thing I'm not allergic to them or anything. Even though I got some of my own, so it doesn't matter. But we got an interesting episode today. Go ahead and take it away. I'm just going to let you jump right into it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. So then I'll jump right in. So kind of interesting thing that I've been studying recently. We did we've done several podcasts where we've touched on the opioid epidemic in the United States. I know Dr. Molly and Dr. Can, I think both weighed in a bit on the opioid epidemic. And okay, so in the United States, we do two things. When something's a problem, it first becomes an epidemic, right? And an epidemic, I don't know, is necessarily the right word, because an epidemic to me is something that occurs naturally. But most of these things we actually make. Opioid addiction being one of them, which started with the opium trade with Chinese in the early 20th century. I'm not going to go that far down the road. But the next thing we like to do once we've established something is an epidemic is we declare war on it. Because the best thing to do when something is a problem is to declare war on it. And I'm being totally sarcastic,
but it's kind of true.
So then we usually take a bad situation and make it far worse by getting very reactive and reactionary about things, followed by witch hunts and the like. Unless you have money, like Big Pharma, in which case you somehow escape unscathed and usually even make a profit off it. So anyway, with that being said, I really wanted to understand a little bit more about opioids, opiates, whatever you want to call them, and the opioid addiction situation in the United States, because it is hugely problematic. And we actually do know a fair amount about opioids, opioid receptors, and what they do to the body. And transversely, how little we know about the cannabinoids and the endocannabinoid system and what they do to the body. So what I want to do here is just give a brief overview, not too deep dive. I will provide the sources to where I got this information. To be honest with you, a couple things came from WebMD because I thought they did a nice job of sewing it up. But pretty interesting. So because there are some similarities, but there's some stark differences in the way the body reacts to it, at least. And I have to be anecdotal on the endocannabinoid side because, big surprise, there's not enough studies to really say conclusively what a lot of these cannabinoids do. So brief overview is opioids work with the body because the body has an endo-opioid system. The same way that the body has an endocannabinoid system. The endo-opioid system basically deals primarily with how the body deals with physical pain. And it's associated with a few things, including some immune cell and nervous system functions. But it's primarily how the body delivers pain management, chemicals naturally through the body, also how the body rewards itself when it thinks it's done a good job. So like your brain says, good job, here's a little treat for you. Which is how a lot of addictions actually happen. And a lot of addictions outside of opioid.
Like food.
Yeah, food is one. Gambling is a big one. That actually involves your endo-opioid system, believe it or not. And that was very interesting to me. So let me get into that before we get too, distracted and I digress down a endless rabbit hole. So the endocannabinoid system has 3 different components to it: the mu, the delta, and the kappa. The endocannabinoid system has 2, the CB1 and CB2 receptors. Dee Dee just tried to swallow a sneeze, by the way. If you just caught an inkling of that on the microphone, it was like, what the hell is that? That was Dee Dee literally swallowing a sneeze.
Sorry.
That was impressive. I thought your eyeballs were going to explode. Love it.
Move on.
So the mu, which is the big one, which is what we were just referring to, which I believe has the most impact on humans who consume opioids or process different forms of addiction, deals primarily with pain and reward. So basically, this is the part that says, okay, body, I'm going to put you through a physical trial or a challenge, and all of these, adrenaline is gonna spike, and heart rate's gonna spike, and maybe whether you're climbing a mountain, doing rigorous physical activity, sitting at a poker table, or getting ready to eat food, anything like that. So your body becomes stimulated. You perform the activity, and once you've completed the activity, your body gives you, things like endorphins and dopamine. Dopamine's a big one also with people that are addicted to social media. All you out there that just love to post every fucking thing you eat, and sorry for those people that do that. If you're listening to this show, you're still cool, but that's annoying. And then immediately, the first thing you do is you wait 15 minutes, then you check to see who liked it. And then you wait another 15 minutes and you check again. And then you're the person that's walking, into a light pole because you're checking to see how many likes you got. Well, the reason why that is because when you go back to that post and you see those likes, your body gives you a little squirt of dopamine that says, hey, good job, buddy. Like, you did something, even though you didn't really do anything. And then you post more and more and more. So the people that designed social media designed it specifically for that, which is, in my opinion, why MySpace, that nobody remembers, failed, and Facebook took off like a rocket.
I remember MySpace.
Okay.
I liked it.
But you couldn't get the self gratification that you could from MySpace that you do out of Facebook. So anyway, so that's the mu. Gambling, when you take that risk and the adrenaline's pumping, and then you get that release. That's the mu, releasing these natural chemicals, or I'm sorry, receiving these natural chemicals, because it's the receptor. The delta deals with mood primarily, and this is sticky too, because people who take opioids, be they natural or synthetic, can dramatically affect their mood, because when they take them, it's going to slow your brain down. It's going to open up neural pathways that say, hey, everything's good, it's sunshine. And for those of you who either know or don't know, both natural and synthetic opioids are very short-lived in the body. Most of them are gone, in fact, within 24 hours. So it's going to rush in and it's going to rush out. So you're going to get a big spike in your mood and you're going to feel great. And then it's going to send you right back down. Mm-hmm. And what that does to the brain is say, wait a minute, we felt so good. We want to feel like that again, and we want that back. And that creates another addictive quality. So you've got that your body's all of a sudden looking for this pain release, this gratification, this increased mood, and that it just experienced, and it's gone. And not only is it gone, but now the brain is saying, well, I'm not going to produce it naturally because I want, the chemical was the chemical that was introduced was superior to what I can produce. Oh, and I don't have to do the work, like working out or actually doing some activity to achieve that reward opioid. I'm just going to take a pill and synthesize that reward. No shock that our culture in the United States is kind of in that situation where right now people look for gratification without doing the work. I don't want to work out. I just want to Photoshop my picture and put it on social media. So I'll get that dopamine rush when people like it.
It's hard to Photoshop this.
No, and none of that's relevant. None of that's important. I mean, and anyway, I'm not going to get into that. But you see where I'm going with this.
Yes.
Then we have the kappa. So the kappa also deals with pain relief. Kind of one of the, I don't want to say lesser receptors, but there's not as much information. Also affects mood. Also has affects award response, so on and so forth. But it's also oddly related to dysmorphia. I don't know if which is where what you perceive is not what is real. I have a lot of personal friends with body dysmorphia, which is where you look at yourself and you become obsessed with not looking good enough, and how you see yourself in the mirror is not how is not true to your physical appearance. Your brain actually alters the way you see yourself. So when you take an opioid, you are essentially introducing something to your brain that's going to give you a super sunshiny, awesome feeling. It's going to slow down your body functions and your brain. It's going to release all these chemicals that are normally only released as a reward for achievement. And it's going to, stabilize your mood in general. And then it's going to whoosh in and it's going to whoosh out. And what that does is that it creates both a physical and psychological addiction. So your brain is bummed because it wants to feel that all the time. And by the way, that has come 100% completely natural. Another interesting thing that I found out as I studied is life on this planet on a cellular level gravitates towards pain relief and moving away from a more difficult environment. Every piece of life on this earth gravitates towards what is safe, what is the optimal environment, what's most comfortable. So when you're experiencing these sensations, you're experiencing it on the most intricate cellular level, which is crazy. Now here's kind of where I got to burst the bubble: is it is naturally occurring, just like cannabinoids and the endocannabinoid system. It's naturally occurring in your body, and it's naturally occurring in some plants. The two biggest being obviously the poppy, which is where the medical grade opium or opioids all the way to heroin start. And now the new thing, which is still legal in a lot of places, Kratom. So Kratom in 2017 or 2018 was determined to be an opioid, and a lot of people don't know this. because it
I didn't
affects
know that.
23 of the 25 components, and tell me if I'm wrong here, but this is how I understood it in the study that I read, react with the mu receptors in the body almost identically to the way the opioids from poppies
Wow.
interact with those receptors. So what that squashes, unfortunately, is the theory on the cannabis side that, oh, cannabinoids exist because we need them. Well, and the endocannabinoid system exists because the body needs endogenous cannabinoids.
Mm-hmm.
The opioid system exists because the human body needs endogenous opioids. But if it's an opioid or an endocannabinoid, that's your body's producing that. If it's an opioid or a cannabinoid externally, your body's going to receive it and your body's going to react to it as if it were naturally occurring in the body. But that is, not the case, unfortunately. And that is where opioids and cannabinoids are similar. Mm-hmm. Now, I know there's also a theory that, oh, well, it stays in your system so long, cannabinoids, that because your body needs it to process it. Unfortunately, that's not true as well, because there are neurotoxins that your body receives the same way that you do not want in your system, and they'll stay there for years. Naturally occurring in plants and animals, particularly sea life, that you don't want to mess with. And your body gladly absorbs them and receives them like it's candy. But it's not helping your body. In fact, in many cases, it's killing you. Botulism, for example, will last 3 to 6 months. There's actually, and this is interesting. So there's a new peptide out based from mamba venom called Momblin, and it's non-addictive. This is kind of cool. Hasn't been of course, it hasn't been approved by the FDA yet. But what it does, it's like it has 10 times the pain relieving qualities of opioids, with no addictive qualities. It's still being experimented, but it's based on this neurotoxin. A lot of some of the newer erectile dysfunction medications are actually neurotoxins. Or I guess they're not qualified as neurotoxins anymore, but that's where they started. And actually, one of them started.
If it's God's will for you to lose your erection,
one of them.
Here's
funny,
God's
and
will.
This is where I get lost, by the way, in the research and study we do for the show. One of them was developed because the dude got bit by a snake and had an uncontrollable hard-on for like 4 hours. And it was a side effect of this neurotoxin that has now become an erectile dysfunction medication. So very interesting. But I don't want to digress. I want to stick to this because we're almost done with the science stuff to where we can actually talk. So then on the endocannabinoid side, right, we've got 150 known cannabinoids. Of those, there is a very, very, very small amount of information as to any studies that have been published. And I know I'm not going to get on the soapbox, but that have been published that say exactly what these cannabinoids do. There's only anecdotal evidence and people who take them and receive benefit. Obviously, the tetrahydrocannabinols, THCs, have psychoactive properties. They've gotten so far to identify which cannabinoids react with which receptors, the CB1 being primarily, brain and nervous system, CB2 being peripheral nervous system, which is skin, organs, immune system, so on and so forth. But what they actually really do, are they reuptake inhibitors? Are they blockers? Are they chemical substitutes for the endogenous endocannabinoids, of which, just to give you the most popular endocannabinoid that exists is anandamide, which we've also covered in previous podcasts because it was named after Ananda, which is Sanskrit for bliss, the bliss molecule. There's a couple more, but not a whole lot is known about what even our endocannabinoids that our own bodies are producing are really doing for us, which is amazingly ignorant. And obviously not an accident because there's been tons
Well, they
of time.
just discovered the endocannabinoid system in the 90s.
Well, but that's the thing is, I mean, there's been a lot of things that have been discovered since then that we now know tons of shit about.
I know.
So it's disheartening to dig and dig, but the anecdotal evidence is CBD helps regulate body function. CBD helps regulate brain function. CBD has some pain relief benefit, particularly in the THC category, because THC does, in fact, and this is the one that they do know, emulate anandamide. Now, where it differs from a opioid is that an opioid is going to get into the endo-opioid system and bring it up and crash it down, whereas tetrahydrocannabinol is going to get into the endocannabinoid system and it's going to slowly alter brain function and body function, because the THCs are also, and this is interesting, one of the few that they found that react with both the CB1 and CB2 receptors. But it's primarily the CB1 receptor.
Right.
And it's going to help, but it doesn't replace the chemical, and it doesn't leave the brain I don't want to say incapable, but struggling to produce anandamide naturally. The only time that happens, as we've also covered before, is when you, as an individual, decide to replace your coping mechanisms with smoking pot, which is where I define a pothead. It's like, oh, I can't deal with life, so I'm going to check out and get stoned. And then what happens is you lose the subconscious function of coping, and then your brain reacts to that. So it's not the chemical inhibiting, it is you replacing a function with another. Kind of similar to the whole comparison I did with the social media. I don't want to work out and get these lovely benefits. I'd rather just post something and get that little bump.
You can work out and post your workout and get an extra bump.
Yeah, please don't. No, I'm just kidding. I post my workouts sometimes, but and I think that's cool when you hit a PR, you have a great day, or you're just feeling good about yourself. But I don't need to know every workout that you do every day, even if you're hot.
Or the food.
or what you eat.
That stuff drives me crazy.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care.
Yeah. I'm gonna start showing I'm gonna start posting pics of my poop.
Yeah, please.
Let's say, look at this poop.
Please don't.
It's the same thing, right?
You'd probably be banned.
It's just the end result.
There's probably a fetish for that, Matt.
It's like, this is what I ate that produced this
gross
hue of green.
Moving on.
So anyway, I don't recommend posting pictures of your poop, even though it would be hilarious and awesome.
Don't.
So moving on.
Or tag him in it if you do.
So the big so here's the thing is there's not enough evidence, there's not enough studies to medically prove what cannabinoids do, though anecdotally they improve overall quality of life and assist with pain. They're not naturally they're not made naturally. They weren't brought, unless you believe in creative design, which is totally cool, and I'm certainly not opposed to that concept. If you want to believe that God created this plant to help us, that's totally relevant. I'm not going to get on the spiritual side of it, but chemically speaking, there's a lot of chemicals out there that our bodies react to naturally, and that's kind of the reality, of our consciousness and our relationship with the earth. The point is to keep it natural, but even natural, you have to be aware of what you're taking. Kratom is natural. Opium is natural. Both not good for you.
Right.
Both will put you in a bad place eventually if you can, continuously take them. I've taken them both. And, I can say conclusively it's not good, anecdotally. Not good for you.
Right.
So the most interesting thing about the whole thing is that the thing that really has a lot of non-psychotropic beneficial things we know nothing about. The thing that we know is shit for your body and can kill you. And that's another big difference too, by the way. Opioid overdose is a major killer, killing. I mean, it's one of the, most common overdoses. I have a lot of friends in the local fire departments. The 80%, I think one of them said 80% of the calls out of this one firehouse, or Quint as they call it, are Narcan trips where somebody's OD'd on an opioid and they're reviving them.
What a shame.
So not only do you have the addictive property, but you also have the death card. Whereas I've found no evidence that no one has ever overdosed on any cannabinoid. And while you can argue, and I would certainly agree with the argument, that if used improperly, it absolutely is habit forming, it's not something that is quote unquote addictive, certainly not physically addictive, like opioids. So that being said, please chime in, Dee.
Yeah, I think you did very well. I mean, it's a shame how many people. I've lost a lot of people to overdoses. I lost my niece. She was only, I think, 29 at the time, with two little girls, and she overdosed on heroin. Hell, we had no idea she was even doing it.
Yeah.
And then, after the fact, there's the signs. Oh, hey, found some spoons with sticky stuff on it. It's sad. It's so sad how many, and this is Middletown, Ohio, where this happened, and we lost a cousin to it. We've had, my little brother, he has battled his own addictions. It's horrible. He's doing great now, thank God. But even my oldest brother, I lost to a meth addict. I mean, he was a meth addict. So
now meth's a little different.
It
We're
is
getting synthetic.
I know,
So.
but it's still even just the addiction side to drugs. It is horribly sad, and it's done a lot of damage. And I think it was designed to do that. In all honesty, keep people addicted to it so they keep coming back and buying it. I mean, you've got, Matt, one of the saddest things, and John would reiterate this, when we were out in Pikeville for a town hall out there, we met a doctor who treats infants because they have a Suboxone, addiction to Suboxone, because their mom has, been on opiates and now she's addicted to Suboxone. Yeah. While that is supposed to be the medication to help get you off of it, they don't treat you to get off the Suboxone.
No.
They just leave you on it.
Methadone the same way.
Yeah, methadone the same way. So he's literally newborns. If he can get them to eat, then they may have a fighting chance. But these poor babies, oh my gosh. And to think that that's okay, but THC is not.
Well, not just THC, but the whole cannabinoid profile.
Yeah.
Which gets, and I think that they want you to believe that the entire cannabinoid profile is sucked in because of THC, but I don't necessarily think that that's the case.
No.
I mean, THC is psychoactive, and it's definitely the like the big daddy of the cannabinoid profile, and there's more than one THC naturally occurring. But with that being said, I think that there's a lot of fear from the fear mongers, AKA, mass media,
right,
and big pharma and various maybe liquor interests who don't want to see the other cannabinoids because, and while there's no tests or studies that will show this, I do believe anecdotally, without empirical evidence, that cannabinoids can help people get off of some of these addictive substances.
Absolutely.
Because I've seen it.
Same.
And I see it in our store every day.
Yes.
But obviously that requires a tremendous amount of will up for the individual.
Still work.
In fact, I just had a personal friend and customer who uses our products and just got a 2% tattooed on her arm because she made it, and apparently 2%. She's that 2% of people that make it out of that addiction. So,
2%.
Love you, Bubbles. Yeah,
2%.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Congratulations to her. That's awesome.
But that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I can't tell you conclusively that if you are dealing with an addictive problem that CBD or cannabinoids or marijuana will help you. I think that the first step is making the decision to make a change in your life.
Correct.
And committing to that. But could those things help? Personally, I think yes, absolutely.
Agreed.
And there's many times where I did not have access in my life to these products, and I wish that I did.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Wow. Well,
all right.
Yeah. Well, thank you all again for listening to us, and, share your thoughts, send us emails, info@502hemp. If you got questions, we're definitely here to help as always. And the whole reason we got in this business was to help others with whatever it may be. If we can help, we are here to do it. So thank you again for listening, everybody. And, keep it hempy out there.
Hempy.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of Hempin' Happiness with the Hemp Queen
and Emperor.
Keep your mind ever open and expanding. Like, subscribe, review, follow us, all the good stuff. And
keep it hempy out there.